What is comfort? Let's start with that. It's a great topic.
The opposite of discomfort.
Very good. Someone's watched the videos.
I've tried to figure this out for a while.
Yeah. That's the best. You ruined my whole monologue about it, but that's the best answer. All right. So yeah, what is comfort? It's the absence of discomfort. You have to define it in the negative. You can't define comfort in the positive, right? Let's say you go to the gym and you get your muscle, you work hard, your muscles are sore the next day. We all know what a sore muscle feels like. What does a not sore muscle feel like? Nothing. It feels like the absence of soreness, right? That is what comfort is. Comfort is the absence of discomfort. And therefore, in order to build comfort, you can't have like a greater absence of something. It's either there or it's not, right? So you can't have a greater absence. So what builds comfort is having that absence for a longer period of time. So that's the single main biggest builder of comfort is absence of discomfort over time. Right? But he asked, what are comfort hacks? How can you get comfort other than just by time? And there actually are some ways. There are some things you can do. They sort of simulate time in various ways, or they sort of like they focus on like cognitive biases in a way to like make it seem like there's more time without discomfort, right? So here are some examples. Yeah, you said venue changes, yeah? I actually didn't hear you, but yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, venue changes is an example, is a great example. So if I hang out with you for, let's say I sit down with you, I'm not gonna do it right now in front of the crowd, but I sit down with you, we have a conversation sitting next to each other, and we talk for like 5 hours next to each other. It's a long conversation, but it's all in one venue. So it all kind of like, it's still a 5-hour conversation there versus a 1-hour conversation doesn't feel that different to you, okay? But let's say if during those 5 hours, we got up and went for lunch. And then we went and we took a little carriage ride around Central Park. And then we went on a roller coaster. And then I introduced you to some of my friends. And then we like played a sport. And then whatever, right? Now that 5 hours seems like it's been a lot longer because it seems like you've done so much more in it. So that's one way to time distort, essentially. Venue changes distort time. It makes it feel like it's been a lot longer because you've done a lot more things or been in a lot of different venues during that time. Even within a venue, let's say you meet a girl in a bar, take her to go dance, take her to get a drink, take her to meet your friends, take her to sit down, take her to get another drink, take her to sit down. It seems like you've been with her a lot longer than if you just spent that time with her in one place. So that's one. Venue changes is actually an incredible answer to that question. Another answer to that question is commonalities, okay? If you have things in common with the girl, it will tend to make it seem like the comfort is building faster, right? Possibly because, I said there's not like deeper versions of comfort, but there kind of is in a way, in the sense of, you could kind of look at it as time distortion. Let's say like, what's something you're into? What's a hobby you like?
Piano.
Like piano, okay, cool. So if you found out I played piano as well, right? You've spent this time with me, however long we talk, but you've also spent the time thinking about me playing piano, and the time thinking about you playing piano, and thinking that there's that sort of similarity, that commonality, right? So there's an extra layer built in, like there's this imagined other thing going on, that is something that brings you comfort or joy, right? The piano maybe is a comforting thing for you, or maybe something you relate to, right? Also, in playing piano, piano's an interesting thing for this because it's not exactly like a team sport or something necessarily, but do you know other pianists? Have you hung out or talked to other pianists in doing piano? Possibly? Not really. Let's say that your thing was like basketball, for example, instead of piano, okay? And then you find out I play basketball. Now you're associating me with other people who have played basketball, and you have a long history in your life of being friends with people that do that same thing, right? So by association, it seems more likely that we might get along. It seems more likely these things might work, okay? So commonalities tends to give the appearance of more time, either because you can imagine that time together, or you're almost borrowing time she spent with other people that were similar, and it's being attributed to you, all right? So that's another way of sort of getting more comfort per the time. The other thing that is really, really useful for making the time you spend build more comfort is a combination of what I call wide and deep rapport, all right? You guys know what the word rapport means, right? Feeling good with someone, feeling like you have a vibe with someone. But there's two different ways in conversation that you can have a rapport-like conversation. One is what we call deep rapport. Let's say, going back to piano because it's already on the table, if you're really into piano and I'm really into piano, we can have a deep discussion of like how like certain symphonies are composed, or how like if you tune the piano differently it does this thing, or how like if you strike the key this way, whatever the heck it is. I don't know that much about piano. But if we have a deep conversation about that, you may be very enthralled in that conversation. Maybe like, finally someone who gets me, it's cool to talk about this, I can't. So that builds a certain type of rapport that you can't have with just anybody. And it makes you feel like we have a lot in common. It makes you feel like we've had a connection on something meaningful, okay? That's deep rapport. Now, the downside of deep rapport is, let's say we have a 4-hour conversation all about piano. And then I exchange numbers with you, and I want to call you on a date. You're like, do I really want to have a 4-hour piano conversation on this date? Because that's your only experience of me. So the other type of rapport is what we call wide rapport, right? And that means talking on a variety of topics. Let's say that we can banter on, about piano, we can banter about food, and we can banter about travel. And each of these topics was a fun topic. You enjoyed each topic. Well, now, if I call you up for a date, you're going to think, okay, well, I'm pretty confident that it's not going to be like lame and awkward because we talked on all these different topics. It would be weird if we've suddenly run out of topics, right? So wide rapport makes you comfortable that it's not going to be awkward. Deep rapport makes you feel like there's a real connection. And so in a conversation, ideally, if you're trying to build connection, you would like to have a mix of wide and deep rapport. You should have some of both. Because all of one with none of the other, it doesn't really work, okay? So having that mix actually does really help with comfort happening faster. The other thing that can kind of help with comfort has to do with escalation, which is that a lot of times as men, we think of physical escalation. We think about moving things towards sex, right? There's this mentality we're taught as a kid of first base, second base, third base, close, that kind of stuff. We're making progress physically. That type of physicality will actually tend to decrease comfort, right? If you're ticking boxes with your physicality and it feels that way, the girl will become very uncomfortable. However, if there is a certain level of physicality in the interaction that you're both comfortable with and have agreed to, and it's a non-sexual one, for example, you're having the conversation while she's kind of leaning on your shoulder and it feels like you're in an embrace during the conversation, that conversation, you get more time per your time, right? Because there's that casual physicality, the comfortable physicality along with whatever else is happening, it makes you get more comfort for your time, right? But if it's escalated physicality where she's like, what's he going to do? I'm nervous about this. It's the opposite, right? But comfortable physicality actually builds your connection very quickly too. So those are some comfort hacks.